Hello, hi. This is going to be a bit more of a rambly video than normal, which is saying something during my videos, but I just wanted to have a little casual chat video, basically, just going over my journey with writing and finding purpose in it as both a hobby, but as an overall life focus and career aspirations, as it were. But first, hydration. So, I've always been a very creative person, but being able to find a way to put that into practice and get things out the other side that I felt were worthwhile took a long time to get around to. And it took a long time for me to find, a medium and method that worked for me. I started out wanting to be a filmmaker. That, of course, went absolutely nowhere because I didn't have any idea what it took to make a film. Even a micro-budget thing, just the amount of planning, people, budgeting, equipment, all of that, just, I didn't understand what any of it took. I even got as far as doing media studies at GCSEs and applying for a media studies course at college, at a sixth form college. For reference, in the UK, college and university are referred to two different levels of education. I know for a lot of the world, at least in the US, they're just kind of names for the same thing, but college specifically is for ages 16 to 18, roughly, just for a bit of context. I lasted less than a week in that course because it all suddenly hit me what it was going to take. And I realised quite suddenly that that was not for me. And it was very difficult because I'd spent a significant amount of my life until that point focusing on that, and that was what I was going to be. And I had loads of story ideas, but that was it. And even then, looking back, those story ideas were not really story ideas because I didn't understand how to construct a story back then. It was just, all I saw when I was watching my favourite movies was just a series of action scenes and action beats without really the cause and effect and character development and this, that and the other. I didn't really understand any of that, which is honestly quite shameful, but I've thankfully grown out of that, and I like to think I'm got a better idea of understanding how to construct a story, seeing as that's where I want to be doing in life, as it were. Writing stories in any sense has always kind of been bubbling in the background, but I never went out of my way to pursue it directly or properly until a couple of years ago. Even though technically my first big proper writing project, I technically started that when I was 18, and I'm 26 now. I created the original Word document of the first draft, and I had no idea what I was doing. Some people can just sit down and just write. They just flow out of them and they can clean up the messy bits later on. That didn't work with me. But also, I was not in a good frame of mind back then in general. I was really beating myself up over how I was just not able to go through with this, and how I kept falling off the bandwagon time and time again. I'd try to write. It wasn't that my heart wasn't in it, it was that I had this weird sense of not wanting to disappoint others, but disappointing myself was perfectly fine. I never like to break a promise to anyone else, but to myself, it doesn't matter. I don't feel worthy of self-respect. That's what I felt. So, after I abandoned my dreams of being a filmmaker, I studied photography for a bit. That was another GCSE I did. I enjoyed it a fair bit. Fun fact, actually, photography was the highest GCSE grade I got. It was an A. This was back before they switched to the new numbered system they have. My media studies grade was an F. So the fact they even let me on the course in the first place, for the media studies course that was, is, yeah. It's no surprise I didn't last particularly long. But photography was never meant to be the thing I wanted to do in my life. But once you're in that place of education, it's the next stage, and there's so much pressure placed on you at that time from your GCSEs upwards that, oh, this is what you're choosing to study, so this is what you must be choosing to do for the rest of your life, which just is not true. I only did that photography course for a year because what was a hobby turned into something I didn't like, I didn't enjoy, and that's when I then switched over to music, and I found a lot of joy in music. I felt I had found my calling with that, but ultimately, the same with filmmaking, it wasn't to be. What it takes to be a successful musician, even before this era of AI and shit, it took skills that I didn't really have, but I just sort of blindly followed my passion because that's what they say, you know, that's what they say you just need. You just follow your passions and you will guide you to success, but that's not the case, is it? You need understanding of the industry, and at the end of the day it was far more just like standard business practice as an entrepreneur, as anything else in that realm, than you know, the actual creative side of it, which is where I thrived. But in reality that made up a very small portion of what makes you a successful musician or successful in any creative career. It was difficult to come to terms with, and it was just skills that I didn't have, I didn't understand, and the help just wasn't there. And all the while I still had this story, this book that I was working on and off in the background. By the time I made it to university, I was constantly beating myself up over not achieving what I wanted, not being able to achieve, feeling like I was a failure, and not feeling like I wasn't able to do all of the things I wanted, because in retrospect I was heavily burnt out and, you know, suffering from undiagnosed ADHD. Still technically undiagnosed, but I'm on the waiting list. I have been. For 4 years, I wasn't being kind to myself, but it wasn't easy at the time, and I didn't see the other side with a lot of things. Every time there was a setback, it would always feel like the end of the world, and I never felt like I could get through it, and yet life persisted. It wasn't the case that I didn't think I could get through, and yet I did, because in a way I didn't feel like I really did get through it. Just, like I said, life just persisted. It just continued on. So I get distracted by a bit of string on the ground. If that's not grounds for an ADHD diagnosis, I don't know what is. From an outsider's perspective, a lot of the advice I had coming in, all the words of encouragement were always, you see, you can get through it. It's about resilience, and you have that resilience, but like, I didn't feel like I did. It was just passive. Life just sort of happened around me, and I wasn't in control. Eventually things got to a point, and I ended up not finishing university. There was a lot of aspects to why I did leave, and going through all of them would bog down an already rambly video into however many other tangents, but to put it simply, I didn't think I had it in me to be a successful musician. Especially not the music that I was making, or kind of the career I wanted, especially as, you know, on the advent of AI, that kind of, you know, soundtrack library music composer has basically just gone down the drain, hasn't it? Being that I was at university during the peak of COVID didn't help either, and that's really when things got at my worst. I dropped out of uni, and that released a lot of the pressure on that side, but then the other pressure came in of like, what am I actually going to do with my life? I thought I would just have to settle for less, that I would just have to get a normal job and live a normal life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the difficulties I've had in trying to maintain regular employment, filled me with a lot of shame, and all the friends I had, I lost contact with them, and I felt like I was a burden, and I wasn't really doing anything. I wasn't focused. I didn't know what to do with my life, or like what was there to, push me forward, like to give a sense of purpose. And that's when I came back to my story, that book, as it sat in what little I had written, and I thought, I've been wanting to do this for so long, and I still have so many ideas that I want to get onto paper, might as well give it a go. I was getting recommended a lot of writing advice stuff on YouTube, a lot of stuff in the BookTok space, or BookTube space rather. That storyteller side of me, I realised never went away, and that was really the core of it. It's getting those stories down in a way that's basically solitary. The only people you rely on are your beta readers and editors and that kind of stuff. It's something I can sit at home or just somewhere quiet and peaceful and focus and get lost in creating these stories. Started to get back into it. Tried carving out some specific time in each day to dedicate to writing. And having just that short time of each day to dedicate to writing, which then grew into basically dedicating most of each day to writing, and feeling like that I wasn't lost, that I wasn't wasting my time. It was the main, foot in the door to turning things around, really. I went on a kind of beginners-ish writing course, or residential writing course, and that helped really kick my writing into gear. 6 months after that, I finally finished the first draft of my book. 6.5, 7 years after I started it, it was done. And the second draft came along, then the third. I began meeting new people and actually getting info, contacts, a community with people that actually felt like friends and not like what I thought friends would look like I did with the previous friend group. And I've made more friends by furthering my writing. It took me into my mid-20s, but it finally felt like I actually found my tribe. The first one's close to done, and I'm now neck deep in the second book. And hopefully won't be too long until I think I'm getting there, ready to actually start querying agents and getting my work out there. And for the first time in my life, I feel like I really truly know and understand the path and the steps I need to take to get what I want out of life. Because I genuinely didn't know back then. Back from more than 5 years ago, I just felt clueless. And so clueless, I didn't know what questions to ask to even get a better understanding, to even begin to understand or know what I was supposed to be doing. But now I feel I do know, or at least I have an idea. I have something I can actually work with, and I started, been doing more. I've been revisiting certain hobbies I'd lost in the past, and while I still struggle to read as much as I would like, book-wise, I've still managed so much more than I have throughout basically my entire college and university days. And I still have my, skills from what I learned in music, but having that as purely just a hobby and a passion project without the worry of it, becoming a job, has taken so much of the pressure off of it and helps me enjoy it again. At the time, I really didn't realise how bad of a state I was in back at university, but in retrospect I can look back and understand that I was really not doing well, and I felt like I couldn't ask for help because I didn't know how to. But now I feel like I can, and I feel like I know what I need to do. And there's still going to be days where I kind of feel like I'm cluelessly, banging my head against the wall, but at least there is a path now that I can see, and I'm not just stumbling blindly through life like I was before. And I'm actually excited. I'm excited to get my ideas, all of my ideas, onto paper and out there. And hopefully one day you may get to read them. A bit more of a rambly video this one, but just a story I wanted to tell. There'll probably be a bit of delay between this one and the next video because I've got some stuff upcoming, but I hope to get back to it, make some more fun videos, write some more, do all of the great things, all of it. And as always, just thank you guys for watching and sticking around, and I hope you'll stick around for the future to come. And there'll be more of you when that happens. But yeah, see you in the next video. Au revoir.